Well, good morning, everybody. Good to see you all. My name is Mike Scutt. I'm the program director here at Farm Table, and it's time for cakes with Terry on Saturday morning. I don't know if any of you are going to cook along, but if not, Terry's invited all of us over at 11:30, so we'll just see you all there. Terry, I don't know if you realize where that's happening, but well, it's fun to be with you all on a Saturday morning. It's been a while since we've done a Saturday morning class, but many of you are familiar with Terry and how delightful it is to cook along and learn with her, both about cooking and culture. And as you know, our mission is to build local food culture, and that involves offering classes like this and opening our very local foods restaurant, serving local organic food, and we support about 20 area farmers, most of them within 40 miles. Get about 80% of our food from those folks. So we're all about reconnecting ourselves really to the land, to farmers, and to local food. And you know, in many ways, if we get food right, we get a lot of things right, and we're seeking to be part of that movement. And Terry, of course, has been part of that for years. She and her husband and family moved out in the early 70s to the area and really were homesteaders and grew all their own food and raised a lot of their own meat and eggs and so on. And she also taught from scratch cooking for Head Start for over 20 years. So she just brings a lot of knowledge and joy to this teaching she does.
Right.
And
okay, welcome everyone to Pancakes. Pancakes 101. Pancakes are probably the earliest known food that man prepared. One of the very oldest, going back like 30,000 years. There are analysis of starch grains on old grinding tools show that Stone Age persons were grinding up grains and ferns and mixing them together and cooking them on hot rocks. I don't know if you remember Otzi. I always was particularly interested in the Neolithic hunter guy, Otzi, who 5,300 years ago went for a hike up the Italian Alps, and he was actually killed. At first they thought he died, but as time went by and analysis of his body, they found that he had an arrow in his back. But they just checking out what his last meal was that it was red deer, ibex, and einkorn wheat, which there were bits of charcoal and things, and they kind of put together that he made some kind of a pancake to have that morning before he started off on his hike. So I always thought that was pretty cool. The ancient Greeks and Romans made pancakes sweetened with honey. The Elizabethans liked their pancakes with spices and rose water. Traditionally, pancakes were eaten. Official pancake day is Shrove Tuesday in many parts of Europe, which is the Tuesday before Lent. And it was necessary to use up all your perishable dairy, milk, eggs, and butter, because those were forbidden along with meat for the period of Lent. There's a very funny, very cool, interesting only pancake race in England, which happened when there was supposedly, and they put it as housewife, kind of a housewife with too much to do, kind of trying to get everything done, making a lot of pancakes, and she's standing at the stove and she's hearing the church bells ringing at 5 minutes to 12 and calling everybody to the service. And she's got her, and she is not going to lose that pancake. If it stays on the stove, it's going to dry out and burn, whatever. So she just runs out the door with her apron, her hat, her frying pan, and runs to the church door. And that was such interesting, funny, humorous. The people all remembered it, and they started having pancake races back in 1445. And to this day, you can if you live in the village, who lives in the village at least 3 months, and you can recreate this race with your hat, your apron, your flying pan. You have to flip your pancake 3 times. If you drop your pancake, you have to stop and say a poem. It's a very short poem about pancakes, but anyway, it's pretty fun. So that's kind of some background things about pancakes, and we're going to get busy making our pancakes this morning. Even though anybody can make pancakes, it is simple. No matter what's your skill level, putting together flour, eggs, milk, and some leavening, you can come up with an edible pancake. The thing that, as you move along, you kind of want to increase your skills. You're kind of going for the perfect pancake. What is the perfect pancake? With American pancakes, it's something fluffy and puffy and something that takes the syrup real well. For European crepes and like Swedish pancakes, it's a thin pancake.
Terry?
And so the flour you use, people mostly think of flour as a blank slate, but if you have really good flour, it can also add flavor to your pancakes. It can add actually kind of like a nuttiness. And how you get really good flour, there are actually nowadays local mills that are milling flour freshly, and it is worth the effort if you're really serious about making quality baked goods.
Hey, Terry.
And pancakes.
Terry, if I could interrupt a minute.
Yeah. Yep.
I just want to acknowledge to everyone that like your screen is freezing a fair amount, Terry. We can always hear you, but I wanted to apologize.
Okay.
We looked into what we could do for Terry's internet service, and she has the best available there in her rural area. So hopefully it'll be generally fine. You were frozen there for a while, Terry. Now it's sort of here and there, but we can hear you, and hopefully we'll get the best possible video. But I do want to apologize, folks, that this is part of our reality these days. And sometimes the internet's great there, and sometimes it's not perfect. So go ahead, Terry.
Sometimes it's not.
We'll all bear with.
Okay. So, and we'll kind of talk about ingredients as we go along. And we're going to do 5 different kinds of pancakes, a couple savories, the other one sweet, and we're going to do pancake because that has to go into the oven, and that's going to bake for 35 minutes, and that is our longest process. So I'm going to start with that. Basically, all these are simple recipes, and I have 4 eggs, and I'm going to put them in the bowl here, and I'm going to mix them up. And I'm going to add the milk. We're in a cup of milk. We're going to have our cup of flour and a little bit of salt. Keep this handy. I don't need that. All right. Now I'm going to mix the dry ingredients, and we're going to do this with just about every recipe. And then into the center, I'm going to put our egg mixture, and we're just kind of working in the flour. Up on our internet.
And Terry, just to mention this, I think earlier when we were having a hard time, you guys turned off other devices that might be using broadband, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
We have done that.
Yep.
Okay, this is quite a smooth and quite a thin batter. It's 4 eggs, cup of milk, cup of flour, a little bit of salt. Now we have warming up in the oven. Oh, and you should be cautious. Have a hot oven, as you can probably see. And we're just going to pour our pancake in there. I don't need that.
And Terry, do you want to have the skillet hot when you pour it in there?
Hot, hot. You have to put this in 15 minutes ahead of time.
Okay.
With a little oil in the bottom or clarified butter. Pop it in the oven. Timer 30. We'll give it and check it. It might need 5 more. Now I'm going to pull this over and get our griddle warming up. Okay, all right. And the second one I'm going to start is our buckwheat blini. I'm going to start this a little ahead because we have yeast. We want to give the yeast a rise. So I have warm milk, 1 cup. I have a teaspoon, just 1 teaspoon of yeast, sprinkled across the top. That can go in the fridge. Our recipe here for buckwheat is 2/3 of a cup of all-purpose flour, 1/2 cup of buckwheat flour. This is a very excellent pancake book, Betty's Diner Pancakes, and she does have a little write-up about buckwheat, which I thought is pretty interesting. Despite its name, buckwheat bears no relation to wheat. In fact, even though it is cooked as a cereal and ground to make flour, buckwheat is actually not a grain at all, but a wild herb, a distant cousin of rhubarb. Native to Russia and Central Asia, it was introduced to the West in the Middle Ages by Dutch traders who are believed to have named it Buckwheat or Buckwheat in reference to the Bible. The buckwheat caught on in Europe because it is practically indestructible and can be grown on the poorest soil and with little effort. Amateur farmers were known as buckwheaters. So anyway, that I thought was quite interesting. Because I always just thought of it as
Betty's Diner Pancake?
Another grain. We will put in
Terry?
Betty's Diner Pancake book.
Thank
yes.
you.
Okay, so then we have 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour and 1/2 cup of buckwheat. I think you can go up to 1/2 and 1/2 buckwheat and flour. And you can also substitute, you know, my husband loved buckwheat pancakes. And so for him, just your regular pancakes, put 1/2 and 1/2 or 1/3 buckwheat flour to all-purpose flour. And so this is our flour, our milk, our yeast, and we're just gonna let that sit now. You want to give it several minutes for the yeast to start working. And we're gonna set that right there with our buckwheat tray. Now we're gonna do our old-fashioned American pancakes. I'm not gonna put that in.
Terry, can you find buckwheat flour at most grocery stores?
Actually, they have the red mill display at most grocery stores now, a little organic display that's set in with all the flours, and they will usually have buckwheat flour. Otherwise, of course, you can order it online. And most of your natural, food will have a bin of buckwheat flour that you can dig out for yourself, nice and fresh. Now, this we will do our American, all American pancakes, which I always like this recipe because you don't need a recipe. What I think is like two of everything. You're going to make pancakes, you just get up and you just two of everything. And so I start with 2 cups of flour, and I start with my dry ingredients, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of baking soda. Now, if I was going to consider that are baking, are we going to eat all these pancakes today? Usually we don't. Even with my group here, a couple pancakes is enough. I read a quote that said, all you can eat pancakes should really just say 4 pancakes, because that's about the most anybody can eat. And I think as you get older, 2 is kind of the limit. So we have our dry ingredients, and I just kind of mix your dry ingredients together, and then we're just going I do 2 tablespoons of sugar as well. All your dry ingredients together. Then your liquid. Pop in your eggs. 2 eggs. And you can use melted butter or you can use vegetable oil. I actually, for my pancakes, I prefer tablespoons of vegetable oil. I think it just is a better texture to me. It's a personal taste. And buttermilk. The best, fluffiest pancakes, you really need buttermilk. You can make these with whole milk. They'll turn out. They won't be quite as nice. And then we're gonna mix everything together. And as I was saying, don't batter the batter. You want to do it nice and easy with your buttermilk type pancakes. And it's the consistency for, I was going to say one thing. I used 2 baking soda, 2 baking powder, and I didn't quite finish that thought. If we were going to eat all these pancakes today, I would just use baking soda. Baking powder will keep the pancakes so they will puff up the next day and be nice and light also the second day. Baking soda will kind of poop out on you. Baking powder, sometimes called double acting baking powder, means because it puffs, but it's got another puff left at least a day later. So as it's all the consistency is important. Too thin you don't want, too thick you don't want. And these can go right on the griddle when you're sure you're hot enough. Using an electric griddle, 375 is kind of what you're going for. Often the first pancake is kind of a crapshoot. They say the first pancake is like your children. A lot of times the first one isn't your best effort, but you keep trying and they get better. So. I think about a half a cup of batter is nice for these. And we don't need oil on this specific griddle. And this is my Lefse griddle, which works nicely for pancakes. I feel like it's getting hot enough. If you notice, I don't drop your pancakes from high. I think in cartoons, they kind of hold it up high and drop it down because you don't want to bust all those bubbles that have formed from your baking powder and baking soda. I think okay. Now you're going to wait for bubbles to form. And you want brown around the edges. So we're not there yet, but they are puffing. Are we still stopping a lot, or does it seem to be a little smoother yet?
There's some jerkiness. We can always hear you, Terry, once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And Terry, Jamie has a question about the flour you use in your buttermilk pancakes.
Yeah.
Is King Arthur a good brand, or do you have a point about the brand of flour you use?
King Arthur is a good brand. The this Sunrise flour milk, which is a local flour mill, all-purpose, or they also have this whole wheat pastry, which is for pancakes. Any all-purpose flour. Don't use bleached. One of the reasons you make food yourself is that you want a better quality than what you can get at the store. And what they're often doing at the store is commercial products. They're using the cheapest products. They're using bleached flour, cheap stuff, cheap oils, etc., etc. So just the best ingredients that you can use. Excellent. Always has fresh dates on the top of the package. You can rely on it. And it's easy to get, to have delivered to your back door, but mailing flour can be expensive, so I always watch for their sales, and they have free shipping, and then that's a good time to, if you're on their mailing list, you'll probably get stuff every day, but I just keep checking, and when they say it's free shipping, that's when
And Terry, was that Sunrise
I buy flour.
Terry, was that Sunrise flour?
And Sunrise flour. Yep, Sunrise, you can get that right at the farm table.
The nice thing about Sunrise Flour Mill is it's all organic and heritage grain.
Yep.
So some people who have a hard time with gluten actually can eat their flour without a problem. They think it's related to the fact that it's organic and therefore there isn't any glyphosate in it, the chemical used in Roundup. And it's also heritage, so it's sort of keeping some heritage grains in use in a way, as opposed to hybrid varieties.
I can take it. Oh, no, I just want to see. What does it look like? Oh, it's working. Just check in there. It's working. You never know. Ideally, you just want to turn your pancakes once. Doesn't always happen. These are a little bit thicker than they have to be, but yet I like them like this, so they'll need to cook a little bit longer than usual, but 2-3 minutes on each side. And we were talking this morning, Nubia was saying that in Brazil, all the pancakes are savory. And across, most of the pancakes are street food. It's food that you can pick up in your hand and go. And the reason that it never became street food in America, they say, is because Americans love maple syrup, and maple syrup just doesn't lend itself to walking down the street and maple syrup dripping down your arm. So it's strictly table food here. So we're getting pretty close. And I always, the first ones, you kind of do a little check, make sure they're not doughy inside. I'm gonna maybe hand me what, there's some dinner plates right there. Just one. Thank you. And then we'll have these coming off. And these are exact cakes. Okay. All right. Jill wants to get started. There's also some butter and maple syrup on the counter. We have our local Z Orchard maple syrup, which is from about 3 miles from here. It's always good to have really nice local things, really wonderful growers of things all around us. So, yep. And you can buy this at Farm Table, of course, too. And at the orchard, it's an orchard and maple syrup and honey place. That's pretty nice to have all local. So next is going to be, we've let our buckwheat flour sit. And then add an egg. This is our blini. This is the national dish of Russia. There is no New Year's Eve that you don't have blini, and a lot of times it's served as an hors d'oeuvre. Most always savory. This type I chose to make today. Now we're going to put the salt in. And this is a potato blini. And I have 1 cup potatoes that I'm going to put in. Oh, and I forgot to chop in the crisper. There's green onions in the crisper, vegetable crisper. There's a package I didn't do one. No, the green onions.
Terry, Cynthia wonders what temperature the griddle is.
375.
Thank you.
No, it's a long green package. That is it.
And also, Terry, Sandra would like to know what happens or what do we do wrong if a pancake turns out kind of doughy tasting?
It might be too thick that it didn't get cooked through. Maybe your leavening isn't good. If you want it to be puffy, I'll take a chance. Now I'm just gonna. I think leavening. If you're using baking powder, be sure to date it. If it's 6 months old, then I pitch it if there's some left. I usually don't have much left after 6 months. So there's a lot of baking. I'm going to put some of these green onions in and potatoes for our blini. And just use the green part. Now this is also a very good one. Make a day ahead. Put it in the fridge. Now I have some earlier dough. Also, if you have sourdough, I think you can add like a half a cup of sourdough in lieu of some of the liquid to almost any pancake that you make, which gives a nice, excellent added flavor. Now I'm going to double check. I don't make these all the time, so I want to make sure that I have all our ingredients in. Now these, generally, you want them small. And our griddle's still hot. And we're going to finish these up savory today. Traditional, if you're in Russia, you have sour cream on top and caviar. And I read of people writing that you go house to house, which is traditional for a New Year's party. Every single house will have their own special blini. And at every single house, you are expected to have blini, even if you can't possibly put down another one. It's to the host, of course. So I'm going to need that washed out. And these are often too, this sort of pancake is served cold. So that's why it's nice to get a lot of different flavors inside, the onions and the, actually we'll probably dump all of that into the original pitcher or container. All right. And these are coming really nice. They're starting to get bubbles all over. And it's, your imagination, what you can top them with. Also commonly is maybe some creme fraiche and some sliced salmon. Smoked salmon on top is always is a favorite recipe. And we're getting all our nice little bubbles. a little bit hotter. But I can smell the little green onion smell. The potatoes give it a nice flavor. The original, I believe your recipe does not have an egg. That was the original recipe that I used. And I decided it should have an egg. So you might want to write down on there, add an egg to that. You don't have to. It's more potatoey without the egg. And it falls more into the potato pancake line. Although I think to be officially a potato pancake, it should be more than, like, it should be like 70% potatoes and, you know, kind of equal here.
So that was to the Blini recipe, Terry?
This is Blini, yes.
Okay.
And this is as a savory pancake. And they're getting nice and lightly browned. How are those first pancakes? I got a thumbs up on the first batch. Now these Blini are coming out. I'm going to let these cool off, and then when they're cool, then we'll do a little topping for them. Okay, that's our plate of blinis. And I'm going to take the grill away. And then we're gonna start to warm up our pan for crepes. Now on the electric stove, I found 778, medium hot. Could you just rinse that out and let it dry and put it over there, and I'll use this bowl. The technique for crepes. This is such a basic. I believe I enclosed a recipe for from King Arthur flour, and then I made it, but I didn't particularly like it, this recipe. It's okay, but I would like you to write alongside of it if you have a pencil, and I will send this to you later, of course. Instead of 2 cups of flour, just put 1 cup of flour. And 2 cups of milk with 1 cup of flour. 3 large eggs. And then the 4 tablespoons of butter melted. When making crepes the traditional French way, you start with your measure of your 1 cup of flour. And this 1 cup of flour will make about a dozen 8-inch crepes. Our teaspoon of salt in. Okay. And then we're going to make a well in the center, like so. The thing about crepes is they're so nice and light that I'm getting so I kind of prefer them to regular pancakes. You don't feel stuffed or like you have to go to bed after you finish your breakfast. So the traditional French way, you want to put your eggs in the well, and then take your whisk, and you want to keep them in the center, and you want to break up your eggs, and then you want to slowly start bringing in the flour edges. This is the trick to keeping it nice and smooth. You just slowly work it in, and it'll start falling towards the center as you work to the outside. Crepes is something you want to be thin. And then as you start to get a thicker, then this is when you're going to start adding that milk. And cup measure, the measured cup. Yes.
You broke up there for a minute. You said, when do you add something? At what point? We couldn't quite hear it.
As you have the eggs mixed in and it's starting to get quite thick, now you're going to start adding you have what? 2 cups of milk, or plain milk, just plain milk. And you're going to add it. I need 2. You're going to just add it a little at a time. And you bring it, you see the flour from the edges. And you just bring it in nice and gentle, still coming in. And you're adding your milk. Go. Now, if we did it right, we shouldn't have lumps. It should be nice and smooth, which it does look to be. Now, this should sit. This should sit at least 2 hours, and it can easily sit overnight. You could make it up this far, put some plastic wrap on, put it in and then just a mix in the morning, and it'll be ready to go. That's aside. Now I have this that I made this morning. When your mix is done, you can flavor it if you like. If you're doing sweet crepes, you might want to add some vanilla. You can add you can grate lemon rind, orange rind into it. You can add a liqueur like Cointreau. That would be something that you might use for. I don't know if you're familiar with crepe Suzanne's. I recall having it once at a restaurant, and everything we ordered that night was on fire, including the dessert. It was a mistake. Originally, the first crepe Suzanne's were made in 1912 by a chef in France who was cooking a meal for Prince Edward II, who would have been king, but went on to marry somebody he wasn't supposed to. Anyway, so he was making making a special dessert, the corn churro in, and it caught on fire, and he didn't expect that, and he thought he burnt it. He thought it was ruined forever. He didn't know what to do. He tasted it. It tasted okay to him, so he plated it up and sent it out. And the king thought it was absolutely wonderful, the best thing that he'd had in a long time, the very best dessert. And he asked him what it was called. And he made up the name, Crepe or something. And the king actually is the one who named it. He said, "Why not Crepe Suzette? That sounds more French to me." So it became Crepe Suzettes forever. And it's basically just taking your crepes when they're done, folding them up into a frying pan skillet with butter and sugar and liqueurs, and then you light it for the grand finale. So it's a very cool dessert. So this is our, then you could add sugar to this if you want sweet crepes. I've been making them without sugar and saving the sugar part for my last pancake, the Swedish pancakes. Oh. They're done. We're going to pull out our puffed German pancake here. So you can, I think this will work. As you can see, this is quite a pancake to make if you're having company, and it's so easy, so simple to do. And it's just releasing really nice. And what I have this one special for our German apple pancake, and the way to finish this is you pull it out, and it's just like a big popover. It's very hot. And then I have over here, I've sauteed off some really nice Granny Smith apples this morning, and I have this wonderful little keep warm burner on my stove. And what you do is, this is just some sliced apples with just a little bit of brown sugar, lemon juice, and cinnamon. And you kind of fill that across fill your pancake like so. Melty butter. And then you kind of flip it up, fold it over, kind of push it down a little. And then I take and sprinkle melted butter. This is so good. Melted butter all over a baby there. And then we have some powdered sugar, and we put a little into a sieve, and then we sprinkle powdered sugar over it with, like so, and it's quite a beautiful. And it's always, like when you serve that for breakfast, everyone goes, wow. And it's so simple, so very simple. And you just like cut slices. And it's kind of eggy and custardy. And you can see, there we have those. Maybe get a shot of this because it's such a pretty filling.
That looks delicious, Terry.
This is to die for, and it's so simple. just have your oven hot. A good cast iron pan is best, but if you don't have one, you can possibly do it in like a glass 9 by 13 cake pan, something like that. It will work, but you get the best heat out of a cast iron pan. Set that over there. All right. Clean your table for Terry. Right. All right. We're going to try to do crepes now. Do you have that little one? Oh, here it is. You got it. Now this is perfect for me. This is like an 8-inch non-stick pan. This is perfect for me because it's not too heavy. So you can flip your pancake. 1/4 of a cup to an 8-inch pan. You want to take a little bit of butter the bottom of your pan a little bit. It doesn't need much. And then, so I'm not tipping. Into the pan. And we're going to, shut that on. That will show up better. And you can see where it's very thin. And so I can see it. It should, and then I can show it to you better too. As you can tell how it cooks. It's very thin. You're getting bubbles already. The only leavening, of course, for these type of pancakes is eggs. And it'll start to come around the edge, and you'll see a brown as it comes around the edge. And these are just wonderful, filled with your favorite jam, butter. Affordable, easy to eat, tastes delicious. It's like basic food, and it's so simple. And a lot of times you just don't think of making crepes. You can make a whole stack of crepes ahead of time, like this. And this is one recipe minus about 3, so it's a good dozen. And they're just light and thin. You can warm them a little bit. I will show you a savory crepe with the traditional French savory filling very quickly here. You might want to loosen it up a little bit. Let's be patient with it. It'll release when it's done enough. Any questions about crepes?
My main question, Terry, is you say maybe 2 to 4 pancakes at most at one sitting. So how are the 3 of you going to eat all these?
I don't know. You'll have to come over. It's going to be an issue, I can tell.
Yeah. Maybe the puppy in the background can help.
Puppy, yeah. Well, he can certainly do one himself.
Lucy can help, Sandra says.
Oh, Linus, we don't have our Lucy anymore.
Oh.
That's my sister. Okay. Here we go. How to flip your pancake. When it's done enough, it'll go. That's beautiful. I'm gonna maybe just want that extra plate, and I'm going to demonstrate a savory crepe while I'm kind of waiting for that one to finish off. There is some cheese and ham in the fridge that has been ground up. You can also pull that egg salad out, and I will use those for my savory. And I can show putting that together. I think this baby should be done. Yep. It'll always be lighter on the second side. There we go. All right. I had to practice flipping. I haven't done this for so long. But it's pretty fun. We could enter the race, but we have to go to Oni and live there for 3 months or they won't let you in. So just...
Terry, we started Pancake Race in Amery.
I would think with the new road going down the main street, that would be awesome. Yeah. I think we should. I think we could look into that for a farm table event. Yeah, there is the town of Lawrence, Kansas, actually competes with only England to do the race. And the winner actually gets an engraved frying pan, which is pretty cool. Let that one go. Now, this is a basic French snack food. It's available in every French grocery store. It's something like we buy pizzas, these ham and cheese crepes, and they come frozen in boxes, and you just pop them in the oven, pop them in the microwave, and they're done in a few seconds, and they're just walk-around snacks.
And Terry, we have
what you do is, yes.
Sorry, Terry, to interrupt, but Carla says, can you make the Blini ahead of time and then freeze them or refrigerate them? Is that possible with some of these items?
Totally possible. Yeah, they're so forgiving. Yes, indeed you can. Basic bechamel, and it's fairly thick because it's cooled down quite a bit. Your basic French bechamel is your most basic white sauce. It is equal parts butter and flour, 1/4 of a cup butter, 1/4 of a cup of flour. Make your roux, let it cook just a little bit, add a cup of milk, basic bechamel sauce, and it should always be white. You can add salt and pepper, but for savory, add some salt and pepper, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of minced shallots, whatever. Also very popular in this savory crepe is to make a mushroom duxelle, which is just a reduction of mushroom, which you just take and saute off maybe some shallots and onions and a cup of mushrooms and cook it down till all the mushroom water is gone. Chopped mushrooms, a nice kind of a paste, mushroom paste, which gives an added extra flavor. And what you do, you just spread, do 2 things at once, but we're going to manage. Yep. Kind of got to get, yep. little bit sticky. There you go. One word of caution, I have a pen here. I was doing my flipping of my pancakes and my hand slid down to this part of the pan, which was scorching hot. So I got a little bit of a burn there. All right, so we just spread a little bit of sauce, just because you always sort of need a little sauce. And then we have some wonder fine ham. And I'm just going to sprinkle that. And then I'm going to put, I use Swiss cheese. The French might use Gruyere. Use whatever you have. This is local Swiss cheese from Clear Lake, I believe. I got it at Farm Table and I just chopped it up. And then you just put it like so. And you make yourself a little stack of these and pop them in the oven. The cheese will melt. And it's just a one, also freeze wonderfully. And it's just healthy, hearty, good stuff. And so simple. And so much better for you than what's ever in that store pizza on the shelf in the freezer section. And we're just going to roll these up here. Yeah, maybe another plate. There's, all right. And of course, the most traditional, I'll do one the way I like to have them myself is to, I would take my crepe and spread on. I might put just a little melted butter on it, like so, and then some of my homemade raspberry jam, and I spread that around. Let's see, go back here, you can see, and then I'm just spreading it around. Roll that up, and it tastes wonderful. Those are savory. I'll keep this for sweet. All right, maybe I'll finish the Blini as well. Those. And for my Blini here, and I'm going to do another. Oops, I lost my crepe batter. Yeah, with the. I'll use that. We'll just keep making. Try to keep my stove nice. It's an effort, I tell you. All right. With our Blini, I'm going to do them. I made up some egg salad, and I'm going to just spread some on top. And some of our ham. A bit of ham. And if you have like some dill, a little bit of parsley. And then this would be our little Blini to go. And you can make them smaller. These got a little bigger than they had to be. Right. There's a long spatula in that second drawer. Next drawer. One of those, yeah. The offset knife works better for this. And then you can just, and adding the potatoes makes them more tender than they might be. And the potatoes also give a really nice flavor. I think we should do a class on just potato pancakes because there's so many kinds of those also. But if you can imagine having to eat tons of these with a whole bunch of stuff on them, you get full pretty fast. Always start off, I think it's probably done. Okay. And the ham, I did the ham in my food processor. It's nice and crumbly, tiny little. And it's just all good food, and it can't help but taste good. And a little either dill or parsley on top finishes it off, and it makes a really pretty. Nice if you had some fresh herbs to put around, but it's the wrong time of year for us. You can take that. Okay. Oh, I guess, why don't then I'll just go to the Swedish pancakes, which are pretty much the same. Maybe, yeah, be careful. It gets really hot at the front. And we'll just save this till later. What time are we? Okay, and the cheese. Now for the Swedish pancakes, I'm going to warm up. You know, and here we are. We're basically the same as crepes. Usually, I put sugar in the batter, which I don't usually do for crepes, but you can. And once again, we're going to start with our flour into the center, and we have sugar, 2 cups of milk, 3 eggs. I'm using the recipe from Al Johnson's Swedish restaurant. I liked it better. I tried them both. I think both work. I was really interested to do this one from Al Johnson's restaurant. Of course, it's just simple, simple, simple. We're going to blend the sugar and the flour. Again, make a well in the center. This is just standard practice for European pancakes. Three eggs in the center. Start by, once again, and let's see if I go back. There you go. All right. So you can see, smoosh up your eggs with your whip. And then just start to bring the flour in. It's nice to have your eggs and milk at room temperature, or you can warm them quickly. Don't want to leave eggs out, which is certainly never recommended. What I do is take out my eggs before I'm going to use them, just like 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, put them in a bowl, cover them with warm water, 5-10 minutes, they're room temperature eggs. And then we just start to slowly add the milk. And bringing the flour in from the side. dry ingredients first, and it's always a lot of milk. Now, Swedish pannkaka. Swedes are famous for pea soup and pancakes every Thursday. It's a traditional food, as with Shrove Tuesday and having pancakes to fill you up before Lent and getting rid of using up your products that you're not allowed to have. Swedish pancakes are something that people ate on Thursdays because when Sweden was a Catholic country, Friday was a fast day. And the king set about to contrive a really healthy, filling feast for his people, which was pea soup and pancakes. As a meal, it was served since the 1400s in Sweden on Thursday. In most restaurants in Sweden today, you can be served pea soup and pancakes. It's always yellow whole peas that are used in Swedish pancakes, or Swedish soup, I'm sorry. And Swedish pancakes, along with the pea soup, proved to be a really filling meal. Now, these are served most often with lingonberries and whipped cream. Hand me some paper towels. Okay, now this is perfectly totally smooth. But again, it's 2 hours. So window for a minute. Had a little smoke in here, but I hate to turn on the fan. All right. So this Swedish pancakes are usually bigger. They're usually sweeter. But it's all tipping the pan. This is a 12-inch pan, so I'm using a cup of batter. And you can see we're getting nice little holes in the top. These go very quickly as well. Being this is a way heavier pan, I'm not going to be able to flip it. I was young and stronger. Maybe do it. It takes a few minutes. And of course, traditional Swedish lingonberries. And you can, of course, any kind of jam or something that you want. But lingonberries are very traditional. And there's also a bowl of whipped cream in the fridge. And they're also commonly served cold. So you can make up a stack in the morning and fold them up nicely. They're usually kind of fold in half and quarters and stacked up. And they're very, very tasty. Does that need to know about pancakes? Are you ready to make some? Take a few minutes first. Swedish pancake. Oh, I should tell you, this is what they do at Al Johnson's restaurant, which I thought was totally cool. He said one day the place was just packed and all the orders were coming in for Swedish pancakes. And his mother came into the restaurant and she just said, "Stand back, everybody." And she watered to the whole big griddle and she just poured it out over the whole big griddle. And as they cooked on one side, then she just took a knife and she cut them. She cut them across. And turned them over in pieces. And that's the way they've been making their Swedish pancakes, they said. Because they get so many orders. Because this first one is a little bit messy. To be expected. A little bit messy. But yeah. And then just take your strips and fold them. I might put a little butter. Okay. We'll put some butter and some lingonberry jam on. And you don't need butter. Some people like butter. Okay. And you can make lingonberry butter also by blending some lingonberries into and you can roll them up and put a dollop of whipped cream on them. And that's how they're traditionally served. And these are my pretty ones. It's all right. This big pan's a little hard to handle. So we have scrambled. All right. Any questions on any of our pancakes? Anything that you think you would try? Did you think you learned anything new at all? Is it all pretty much standard pancake recipes, of course?
Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to make a comment or ask a question, folks. Otherwise, feel free to type in the chat box. Learned a lot.
Thank you. This is really helpful. I enjoyed learning about the history behind some of the dishes as well, and even learning about some of the ingredients. So thanks so much. I'm looking forward to making the German apple pancake for my family.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. It's always such a big hit, and it's so easy. And it looks like you just slaved away. And it's just an amazing thing.
And Terry, the change you talked about related to that one recipe, you'll send that to me and I can email it out to folks?
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, a lot of times if I don't use a recipe for a long time or I'm missing my recipe, I'll fall back on the King Arthur recipes because I know they're very well tested and they're good recipes. But this one in particular, I just didn't care for. You might make it and find it's fine, but I'll just give an alternate what I used today.
Okay, great.
And so you can have both to try.
Good. Well, any other questions folks have? People are sending their thanks in, Terry.
Oh, you're welcome. That's sweet. Yeah, thank you.
It's nice to spend a little time with you on a Saturday.
Make some pancakes and eat. I guess we have some eating ahead of us here.
Definitely do. Well, and thank you to Joe and Nubia as always for helping you out. It's a big help. I know that's
my Nubia. Yeah. And my son, where did he go? I don't know. He went somewhere. He can't sit still. Nyla oh hi. I haven't seen you since such a very long time. Wonderful to have you take the class. Great.
Yeah, and just so you all know, we'll continue offering Zoom classes. Terry has one with about chewy egg bagels coming up at the end of May. But we have a number of other classes coming up, of course. And then we will be offering some in person outside. Like if you're a gardener, we have happy hours in the garden every month this year at Farm Table with our 2 gardening instructors. If you want to purchase a victory garden, there's still time to pick up a tray of 48 veggie starts through Dragonfly Gardens. And then every week we'll be offering weekly video tutorials from the garden. And then of course, we'll be offering some classes outside at the farm this summer too, Hungry Turtle Farm, which is associated with us. It's a separate organization, a separate farm, but we do some programming out there this summer too. So there will be some chances to gather in person, and maybe even this fall, we'll all feel comfortable coming together at Farm Table for some classes with Terry. We'll have to see, but we really appreciate your engaging with us in this way. I know it has its limitations, but thank you so much for being part of the Farm Table community, and Terry for always teaching for us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Yeah, you all too. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.